Hey y'all, how you perking? I hope you're perking good. So, twin chats, twin time, twin shirts. Yes.
Were you wanting this in the frame?
Welcome to this debauchery. I don't even know where to look. I guess over here. Yeah. We're recording using my phone. So at her house with Daisy eating some grass or whatever. Basically what this is, you know how it's Bees Talks and Tarot? Bees Talks and Tarot?
You're making this up as you go.
The talks part, I've told them this before.
We're making up as we go.
I've told them this before. I've told them in Bees Talks and Tarot, that's why it's called Talks and Tarot, because there's tarot sometimes, a lot of times, most of the time on this channel. But sometimes there are talks. And today is one of those times.
Yes.
If you're here in the US, some other places maybe, celebrate Thanksgiving possibly. And so we're just wanting to have like a Thanksgiving hangout. This may go up before Thanksgiving. This may go up on Thanksgiving. I haven't decided yet, depends. But just a nice little Thanksgiving hangout. So for anybody out there that doesn't have anyone to hang out with on Thanksgiving, or they would rather not hang out with the people that they are planning on hanging out with on Thanksgiving, but they just want to have some hangout time with us, well then here we are, and 'tis the season welcoming the shit shows, family shit shows, discussions nobody wants to have, somebody's got a weird uncle making things uncomfortable at dinner, all of this stuff. So we're just here to lighten that mood and to have a very informal twin chats, twin talks, Bees Talks and Tarot time, wearing our matching shirts.
The cats are also meeping at the door.
Yes, the cats are meeping at the door.
Something that will more than likely be picked up on by the mics at some point.
Yes.
Let it be. That's what it is. So in the interest of Thanksgiving. Oh shit, let's get thankful. Fuck me, that's a good one.
Hey, bitch.
What? I didn't know we was bougie. I thought we was just gonna look.
So
we're already winning.
If you can't tell, when I said debauchery a while ago, I meant it. So for anybody who is used to me doing these put together-ish videos with a known topic and things are kind of in order and there is no alcohol involved, this isn't that. Kindly lower your standards before you view.
Call Verizon and cancel your data.
Where'd you want to start, bitch? Podcast style. The only things that I was thinking about earlier that could happen right now is we have both been in a bit of a vent sesh today, talking about loads of different stuff. I feel like even if it's holidays and people are thankful for things and I'm thankful for this time with y'all, there's still, these holidays are really weird, really contentious time, and a lot of people have a lot of shit to vent about. So we're not alone in that, probably. And if you have some stuff you want to vent about, let's vent together. Let's do this together. We're hanging out. We're doing it together here. I'm probably going to burp several times into this microphone.
Oh, it's guaranteed, man.
What'll happen?
I'm going to let it rip. Trust.
Yeah, trust. I feel like there's a lot of talk about this kind of stuff in the spiritual community. This channel mostly is a spiritual channel, even if we get, wild on here and talk about all kinds of whatever fuckery we want. It is still a spiritual channel. And so spiritual topics make sense here. And some of the things that I've been venting about recently is seeing certain things in the spiritual community that I find to be a pet peeve for me. That I find to be problematic.
Unload your pet peeves, girl. Let me know about it.
I feel like they're problem-fucking-matic.
Let me know.
So a couple of things that I think are problematic. And so I want to get your hot take on this. The idea of twin flames and how I feel like there are people that are like, oh, but your twin flame is like the opposite of you and y'all are supposed to, have this hugely tight ties between you, and so it's going to make sense if they're your basically arch enemy, but yet you're together and all this shit. To me, it's like, let's romanticize toxicity and unhealthy behaviors, and let's romanticize it and call it spiritual and divine.
Well, there's this
for
really
you to be in
cool
a toxic
thing.
relationship.
This is really cool thing about cherry picking what God is to you.
Yeah.
And it is basically justifying anything you want to justify.
Yeah.
You're like, this is my spirit juice.
Spirit juice.
This is the blood of Christ.
blood orange. Blood orange. Blood of
Fuck
Christ.
that, blood of Christ.
Blood of Christ.
Fuck me up. What I tend to see in that vein a lot is people who are in like a trauma bonding type situation, a trauma bond romantic relationship, where it really is, it's toxic, it's abusive. There's not a whole lot going for it, but it's like, but you know, if it is, it's because it's meant to be. Whatever is meant to be. And it's like, yeah, I can buy that, but at the same time, like, don't delete choice out of the matter, because it doesn't always have to be, and you don't always have to be there, but that we're gonna call it twin flame, or because we're gonna make it,
or like, just because you have a toxic relationship with somebody and y'all have trauma bonded, and so you feel like you're just meant to be and you're your soulmate. How do you know that's your twin flame? How do you know that's, you know, your whatever? First of all, how do you know? Second of all, if you think that it is so, the fact that there are spiritual leaders, people who consider themselves spiritual leaders or whatever out there, that are making it seem like it's healthy and okay to keep going in these toxic and, you know, downright dangerous relationships with people, because they're romanticizing the fact that it's your twin flame and you are the same spirit pulled apart, and this is this half to this and the yin to the yang and the this and the that. It's like, or whether or not that is true, whether or not, regardless of if that's true, if this dude is beating your ass, then
or,
maybe,
you know, the other way around.
Yeah, then maybe it's not healthy, and
to piggyback
on that bitch. And don't expect us to be eloquent today, because
fuck that. First of all, blood orange.
Yeah, you're here because you're here for
the blood of Christ.
Yes, the blood of Christ.
I think spirituality is okay. But when I see people that are going so deep into spirituality, and basically, whether we like it or not, a lot of spirituality is nothing more than conjecture. It's like an assumption. It's a personal experience. It's something that feels intuitive to us. It might not be something that's replicatable. You know, all this other kind of stuff, which is why skeptics are out there and call it bullshit anyway. So, like, in fairness to the skeptics, you're right. I can't prove all of my experiences, but does that make it any less real to me? No, it doesn't. So I'm going to keep it as mine. But what I'm getting at here is people that get so caught up in their spirituality that they're like, oh no, I'm going to justify this because, you know, twin flame. I'm going to justify this because it's meant to be, because it's happening. I'm going to justify this because I have to go through the pain to get to the good. And, you know, there's all these beautiful reasons why my situation is the way that it is. And I feel like when people get so far into it or so deep into it, that's where it gets dangerous. And you get almost so deep into your own spirituality that you're actually neglecting the physical component of your body. And as much as spiritual folks want to say, well, I'm not my body, I'm not ego, I'm like, I am a spiritual being. It's like, yeah, but bitch, you're in this body right here, right now. You're having a human experience. And the point of being here is to be in a body, to have the human experience. Yeah. Otherwise, you could have just floated around like a fucking fart in the wind for forever and eons and just stayed your ass there. Yeah. You didn't have to come here and try to do the skin suit thing, but you're here doing the skin suit thing.
It's like, whether we like it or not, you have to have some level of ego when you're here, because you have to have some level of, oh gosh, yep, there you go, self-servingness, to want to be able to take care of yourself, to want to have survival, to want to be able to put a roof over your head. And if you're living in the system like most of us, you got to have some sort of an income to keep a roof over your head. So you got to play the game of the human experience. So you can't be, you know, above that in those ways. And so some people can get so lost into that they can explain away everything to the point that they are living in complete unhealth and toxicity, including what a lot of people consider the twin flame thing. And I'm not trying to shit on soulmates and twin flames, but I just think that people get lost in that to the point that they start to excuse away things that are really toxic, really unhealthy, really dangerous. And I get irritated at the quote unquote leaders that try to make that seem romanticized and like, just stick with it. You know, if they're doing these things or saying these things to you, it's because they're your twin flame and you push through and then you do this. And if y'all broke up 7 times, it's because that's what happens when you have that kind of a love. You break up and then you realize you just really need each other and you get back together. This isn't a fucking Hollywood movie. This isn't it's always been you. This isn't that fucking moment sometimes. Sometimes you're not meant to be because you're not meant to be in this lifetime. Maybe you do have a soul connection. Maybe you are completely soul tied. That doesn't necessarily mean that you're meant to work out in this lifetime as a romantic pair in a long-term relationship. It could be that there's some other message there for you, some other learning lesson there for you, and it doesn't need to be that. And I don't get irritated as much for the people who quote unquote fall for that. I get irritated for the leaders that talk this up to where people are following that lead and following it into something that could get themselves unalived.
We got real dark there. Narcissistic bubble reality.
Yeah.
Narcissistic bubble reality. Okay.
Speak truth into it.
Okay, I don't know about truth, but it's just some bullshit spinning around in my brain coils. True or not true is left to be debated, highly left to be debated. But narcissistic bubble reality, because you hear like the spiritual folks that are like, I am not my body. I am an ethereal being and I am timeless and all this other kind of stuff. It's like, okay, fine. But you're trying to be like, I am not ego because I am this. I am better than ego. it's like, you know, that's
sounds
like
awful ego to me.
Ego went into the back door and was like, since it's not okay to claim ego up front, then I'm going to be like the best spiritual guru out there and the best this and I know all and I'm going to, breathe my fire and brimstone on you.
Part of that is not ego.
Yeah, it's like it's all ego. Like that's ego too. Y'all ego tripping too. Like, you know, anybody who's trying to do any of that kind of crap that's pulling some holier than thou anyway, any direction. Yeah, because the way that I feel about a lot of things is if you are zealotous in any aspect of your life, and what I mean by zealotous is basically balls to the wall, hardcore 10 on any given issue, and that means the VAX issue, the like mandatey type issues. So we're talking about people that could get pissed off in that corner. I'm talking about anybody who's even on the other end of the corner that's like, you know, apocalypse now kind of folks that want to like get their artillery all ready because they're ready for a WAR, you know, like all this other kind of stuff. Like any kind of faction that you're seeing that's almost like seeding up in the world right now. And I'm talking about people who are like mainstream religious folks that are very, very like into their beliefs. The spiritual crowd, very, very into our beliefs, you know, like it doesn't matter because you have to belong somewhere. So surely you belong to probably 10 different ideologies that I'm kind of like just listing off right now.
Any group in its extreme can pose.
Any group that goes into some level of extremity, which I consider zealotry, where it's like, I'll die on this hill. It's like, once you find yourself being like, I'm gonna die on this hill, then it's like, okay, I'm not saying that strong convictions are shameful or bad or wrong or any such thing. No, but I'm saying that if we get very deep into any one aspect of the hundreds of hats that we can be wearing simultaneously at any given time, we're going to find ourselves kind of, I would say, out of alignment somewhere else, because all of this stuff, it's like these things that can coexist fit in this nice little harmony. But when one thing is too far this way or too far that way, if you actually took a second to scrutinize yourself, you'd realize that what you're doing is falling into that narcissistic bubble reality. And what I mean by that is where your ego has become so identified with this being the right idea, the right way to do it, the right thing for all and everybody, you know, that one size fits all kind of mentality. And the second that you find yourself kind of slipping in that, it doesn't matter for what what topic. But anything like that, that's where like ego is taking its grip. And what we don't realize we're doing is that is a narcissistic bubble reality. We are being narcissists if we are saying, I feel that my ideas or ideals or morals or values or judgments, they are centric. This is the way that it is. And so everybody else should be on my page. That, to me, is narcissistic. That's you only seeing your way, being in your bubble, and anything outside of that echo chamber is something that you're like, shut it down, cancel it, all this kind of stuff. Whoa, 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 whoa. Let's pump the brakes on that, because we like to demonize other people when we see other people doing it, and then we turn around to combat what we don't like seeing by doing the exact same thing.
And to me, when the spiritual community does that, that's when it burns my ass the most, because the spiritual community is supposed to be the one that's supposed to be bigger and broader than that. They're supposed to not be missing the forest through the trees. They're supposed to be wiser beyond that, to where they practice and preach, tolerance and acceptance, and that there's no one particular right way, that, all roads lead to Rome, and that these are the ways, all that kind of good stuff. And then there'll be, if they are the ones that find themselves saying this is the right way and this has to be this, and it's all this way and all or nothing and yada, 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 then it's like, quite literally, you are not embodying all the things that you are teaching. And again, I don't fault the practitioners quite as highly as I do the people that are leading some of these things, and people
equally. That's probably an unpopular opinion, and I could be wrong on that. Maybe if I evaluated that longer, I would change my mind. I change my mind a lot, y'all, because guess what? That's allowed.
Then I might give it a 60-40 then, because it's like 60 on the leadership, 40 on the follow through. And the reason why I say that is there is something to be said about leadership, especially when people are vulnerable and they're coming at you because they don't have any of the answers.
And authority and that power differential is a real thing, and I'm not going to negate that.
Yes.
But at the same time, I feel like if people weren't so diminutive about themselves, they didn't diminish themselves, they didn't relinquish their power so much to where they actually saw themselves as below the person who's in authority, because that's part of our problem, is we see them as someone we've put on a pedestal, that we trust, that we follow, that without doing our own due diligence and checking in with our own personal accountability and autonomy.
Yeah, that we're all humans and we all shit. And exactly those things, and those are the things that draw me into this kind of a tangential into that second point that I was thinking about earlier, that I was like, this really burns my ass too. The whole spiritual bypassing thing, because sometimes this ego thing that we're talking about plays into that, where people are like, I am so spiritual and spiritually devout and spiritually on top of things that I know all the right spiritual ways of this and this and that. And then it's like, the funny part is here, you're talking about how spirituality means you have to do the work, and you are basically skirting around everything that is shadow and everything that is work.
Shadow is bad, shadow is wrong.
Yeah, apparently. Shadow is bad, shadow is wrong. Think positive. God damn it.
Toxic positivity.
Think positive. Think fucking positive. Manifest. It's the secret. The book or the movie or the whatever the fuck. And
what? You just snapped your leg in half walking down my fucking bootleg porch, and now you're crying? If you keep crying, you'll get an infection in that busted leg. Think positive.
Think positive. Manifest positive. Like...
yeah, shadow is bad and evil and wrong, except for the fact that it's literally 50% of everything.
Yeah.
So go ahead and just be like perpetually pissed off and try to erase something that is literally like got a guaranteed 50% like vest. And
that's kind of where you get, again, when you were talking about the zealotry and the extremism, there are people that do that by being the toxic positive people in the spiritual community, because and either way is again, either extreme is a difficult thing to work with, because there are some people that only are like, but what are your deep feelings about this? What do you mean deep down inside? And what is the deep dark underpinning for this? Where's your root trauma? And that's all they can ever do, and they're always only stuck on root trauma, never trying to think positively, always filtering the positives, always doing deep inner work instead of thinking big picture or more positive, they're going to miss things too. Absolutely. But then the people who are doing the, rainbows and roses and whatever bullshit that are like, well, it's okay, just pray on it and just this and just this and blah, blah, blah. Yeah.
I have an affirmation for that.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, oh God, that's problematic too. And even outside of those, extremes there, in terms of the spiritual bypassing stuff, like people can be acting like I'm doing the work, I'm being a good spiritual steward, I'm doing all the stuff, and then it's like, or are you avoiding things? Because a lot of people like to call things spiritual work, or that they're, rising above and not paying attention to that because I'm rising above these things. Or are you avoiding it?
Yeah.
Because avoidance is...
Avoiding things, escapism, endurism, all three.
All three could be forms of spiritual bypassing. Yeah. Break some of that down while I take some sips.
I need to get lit.
So what we mean by this...
avoidance, endurism, escapism.
Yeah. So avoidance and escapism, very similar, because those are going to mean like, I'm gonna do this and this and this because these are the things that make me more spiritual. And it's like, yeah, but are you escaping and avoiding these shadow things that you need to work on, these traumas that you need to work on, these things that you need to face and take a look at within yourself? Are you avoiding that? Versus endurism, kind of the other side of the coin, where you're like, but I'm the martyr and I try so hard and I just do this to be such a good whatever. And it's like, yeah, well, you're not high and mighty just because you're enduring every last little thing like a saint and a martyr or whatever. That doesn't make you royal and noble and virtuous. You're an endurist, and that's not actually helping your spirituality at all. And it's so interesting to watch all of these things play out, and it can get confusing.
Well, yeah, but that's why I go into, like, as a personal note, like Lieutenant Dan mode. Lieutenant Dan being like a Forrest Gump reference. Yeah, Forrest Gump
reference. That's what we call it. Y'all know the scene. First of all, set the scene.
Shrimper boat.
He's on the shrimper boat. The storm's
blowing.
It's like,
you call this a storm, God? You call this a storm?
Come strike me down.
Yeah, if you're real, you'll stop the fucking storm mid-storm. That kind of stuff.
That whole thing.
People who are like Christian or things like that would argue about how inappropriate that is.
To dare God or whatever. But we just call that.
The point.
The point is we call that the Lieutenant Dan, that we're Lieutenant Danning right now.
When you reach the point where you're like, you've almost like lost your faith. You've lost the things you once set your eyes on as a goal, and it was faith-based, and it was like, yes, this is true, this is real, this is good, it's for my benefit, it's working for me. It's when literally situations come across that completely shatter all of that, and you're like, you know what? If this actually happened to me, if this could happen to me, this horrible fucking thing that I can't see any positive thing coming out of, any benefit coming from at all, I think that everybody that's trying to be a do-gooder being like, this too shall pass, honey. Here, have my sweet tea. I'm like, listen, Betty, not right now. Like, you're pissing me off too. How dare you come to my face and you say that shit to me right after something horrible happened, because they're meaning well, but it can come across, really, really fucking rude.
And we're just mentioning the Lieutenant Dan moments right now because for a couple of reasons, but one, we're wanting to say that this is real, this happens, and very spiritual people will have Lieutenant Dan moments, and they feel shamed from ever saying that because they're like, oh, I should feel ashamed that I'm having that. That means my faith must be weak, and I'm a weak spiritual person. Yeah. No, it means you're a person, a human having a moment. And we're allowed to have those.
I actually really, really love my Lieutenant Dan moments. It's like, that's almost when I thrive, because that's kind of when like this inner skeptic or the critic, comes out, and it's where it almost challenges all my beliefs, and it gives me an opportunity to see what in my beliefs actually hold fucking water and which ones are just leaking all over the place. And it's very important, I think, for people to do spring cleaning with their belief systems to see what is serving me currently and what is outdated and it's no longer working for me. And that, you know, you can pick on it, you know, like, oh, cherry picking what works today and what works tomorrow. And I'm like, yeah, bitch, I love cherries. To me, I feel like it works very well like that, because when you are having these Lieutenant Dan moments and you are kind of seeing what actually meets the standard here, what actually looks like it holds water, and it holds water for me, that's very much so the opposite, like the antidote to spiritual bypassing. Because you think that a Lieutenant Dan moment sounds like something that's very anti-spiritual. It sounds like the exact opposite, but that contrast of being like, I don't even believe there is a God. When you find God again, if you call it God or whatever you want to say, but whenever you renew your faith after one of those moments, do you realize how strong it is? Do you realize how much more bolstered it is and how much more effective it is with you and your own practice and your own observance and like actually making something work? So to me, spiritual bypassing is the whole thing of like, the roof's coming down and I'm going to pull out the porcelain and we're just going to use
affirmations.
Affirmation
Affirmations.
Like no.
It's like you're not even based in reality anymore.
We were talking about that a lot when we were talking about like the spiritual folks that can get on our nerves every now and then, because you see the whole like, I'm just hanging in there because that's what a good servant of the Lord would do, or you know, shit like that, where people are just like, okay, though, it's your life. It's your life. That's what you want it to fucking look like and feel like.
Or the people that are like, yeah, and I'm such a great spiritual whatever, and y'all will see me do my affirmations every day, and y'all will see me do my prayers every day, and y'all will see me do my crystal grids real good, and this and this and that. And how are you any different when that person gets into that rut and it's not really meaning anything? How different are they than the people that may choose to go to church out of routine when they're not listening to the sermon, they're drifting off, they're not thinking about it, it doesn't hit them anymore, it strikes nothing in the spirit, they're just going out of routine to look like the good Christian. There are people in the spiritual community going through all the motions, dead inside, and all we're saying is that it's okay to be honest, to have a full honest appraisal of where you currently exist in that. Know that you are not alone in that, and many people are there currently or have been there before or will be there one day, and then take an honest assessment of that and move towards some sort of goal, and not, you know, there's a lot of these things. Drink your blood of Christ.
Listen, my blood of Christ is almost absent, okay? He is almost rose again.
Okay, they're about the same.
Yeah, I'm telling you, I know where my Jesus is. Okay. My Jesus is about 3/4 to the clouds. Okay, like don't you worry about my Jesus. Hallelujah. Some spiritual folks who are just faking it and stuck in ego and wanting to pretend that they're not a human, so that they can pretend that they're actually like, you know, living in the 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, you know, all these dimensions that are not the
to
third
make
dimension.
them feel special, because they don't actually feel special by any other means in their life.
Or they hate their life so much that they're just trying to escape it by pretending that they're still a spirit. Currently a spirit, which, like, I'm not saying that there's not aspects of you that are exist in spiritual realms. That's not what I'm saying, because obviously, you know, I tend to ascribe to that. But what I'm getting at is this whole pretending that humaning isn't the real thing, because spirit is the real thing. And to me, I feel like that is a bypass.
But I do agree that there's a lot of people out there, and again, I'm not trying to be sound catty or shitty about it, but like there are some people out there that they are kind of ignoring the burning fires all around them, the burning buildings of life, of everything going on. And they're just being like, you know, I am the reincarnation of Cleopatra and whatever. And first of all, you don't know if that's true. Second of all, even if you did know that it's true, what does it matter how special you were in a past life? You're clinging to that in this life to make yourself feel some kind of level of special, you know, to give yourself significance, because you feel like you don't have that in any other shape of your life. That's kind of hollow and empty and sad. And to me, then that's not actually doing anything for any kind of, you know, spiritual stuff anyway.
I'm going to change my eyeliner game and bring Cleopatra back.
Bring it back. Bring it back.
Oh, that'll be
with the blood of Christ.
With the blood of Christ.
With the blood of Christ.
Blood of Christ.
So I don't know. I know it's a double-edged sword to ask this, but I am interested in your opinions on various things, because I'm interested in What do you think about the whole twin flame thing? Do you feel like some people do go run wild and use it to try to make it seem okay and romanticized when it's unhealthy or toxic? Because not everybody does these things. For all these things that we're talking about, again, we're being hyperbolic. Not everybody is this way.
And nothing that I've said do I think like it could be my belief today. Is it going to be my belief in an hour from now?
Peter Mon says, I reserve the right to change my mind at any time.
Yeah,
and I think that's fair.
I don't think that I am the judge, jury, right, wrong of anything. No. So any kind of shit, I run my mouth like I think I know it, but at the end of the day, I'm like, bitches ain't shit.
Yeah, and we're totally okay with that. And so again, not all people fit these things, but I'm just saying, of some people that do. It's like, tell me what you think about those cases, because that of the extreme cases, the some people that this fits to, what do you think about that? Then in terms of like spiritual bypassing, avoidance, endurism, escapism, what are your thoughts on those things? Have you ever thought about those things before? Have you considered those things before? Have you ever kind of taken a hard look at yourself as to, am I avoiding things? Am I, trying to bypass things to, in the sake of some name of spirituality or whatever? Or have I overly endured things because I feel like it's righteous when really it's actually quite not? And so like getting honest with yourselves about this. We've taken honest appraisals too. Anybody here have ever had a Lieutenant Dan moment, as by our definition? Anybody, have been there and come out the other side? If so, how'd you come out the other side? What did you do to get there? We talked about one thing is kind of facing the total opposite and just seeing what that does for you. But some people, have different approaches that bring them up out of that. What kind of things brought you up out of that? I think it's fair that we can talk about these things and be honest, because some of these topics are looked at as like, oh, well, then again, you have a weak constitution spiritually. You're just, if you were more spiritual, you wouldn't, here's a good one. If you were more spiritual, you wouldn't be sad that your daddy died, because you would know that he's in a happier, better place and he's okay and that he never actually really left you. He's still with you. Bitch, first of all, I know that. Second of all, fuck you for ever telling a person acutely grieving anything like that. And two, people are allowed to cry and miss the fact that I will never in this body hear his body laugh again. I will never in this body hear his body speak and have those things again. People can miss the physical component about that, still knowing that they have a spiritual connection to them and that they're still there, and they can have a tight, really good faith. It doesn't mean that when somebody is sad and doesn't instantly get over that, that means that they're a shitty Christian or a shitty spiritual person, or that their spirituality is weak. That's another thing that's gone around that I've seen people say, oh, well, it's because they're not as strong in their spirituality, or the reason why they did this is because, no.
Betty Jane can choke on her fruitcake.
Choke on it.
Choke on your fruitcake, Betty Jane.
The fruitcake.
Ain't nobody got time.
And so it's like, So those are things like you've heard them all. I want to know your thoughts on this, because this is just us having an honest little moment. People don't talk about these things a lot in the spiritual community, in my opinion. And I think that it's fine to have a fair and honest appraisal. And some of these things are pet peeves, and some of these things are things that I've done. And we're going to have, moments of that all the time. I'm just interested in what you think and what your experience is. And yeah, let me try to finish mine. Here, you do your closing arguments.
I don't have any closing arguments. I think that I think at the end of the day, I'm an idiot that doesn't know the right answer to anything. But I sure do like talking about it and figure it out.
And that's all this is. We're just talking, again, what we're thinking, what we're feeling, observations, thoughts. Mm-hmm. We're soundboarding it with a community of people who have their own lived experience and observations and thoughts and feelings. So we're just collectively as a community talking about it together, all being open to the idea that anything that we share or others will share with us in the comments could possibly change our viewpoints, could change how we see things, could change how we think about things, could change how we feel things. And that's a beautiful thing, to be open to that.
Open
and
to
during the
shit
discourse.
being challenged.
Yeah, and I think that's
and knowing
fine.
that it's not a threat, that it's actually more safe to challenge what you think, because the shit that falls, believe me, you would want it to fall because you want something that has a little bit more integrity to build itself up in its place.
Yes. Here's this Tipsy Talks, I guess. Twin Talks, Tipsy Talks, Beast Talks, and Tarot Chat. The debauchery that it's been. Happy you're here. Shout out to all of you. Much love. You want a private reading? I'm not going there. Bye. Bye, as my microphone dangles and is no longer attached to my shirt.
Yes.
Bye.
I should scoot forward so I can hide my yoga pants.
As this plant behind me makes it look like my hair is wild, but it is not at all attached to this hair. So,
I didn't spill myself yet. No. Kindly set your laptop on fire. As triggering as somebody calling.
The higher the hair, the closer to Jesus.
That's what I'm saying.
Which means I'm closer to God than you.
Hey, watch.
Hold on. Nope, this will do it. Shake.
It will. Mine will start like.
If
I ever want volume, I just. I don't know. I just watched it. It doesn't. It kind of falls.
The Lord.